I just wanted to tell you something about the Croatian market. I will not go into many details in terms of the process we went from liberalization of MTPL now coming to a new directive. So let me start by briefly showing the size of our market. As you can see, it's not very big in terms of number of companies. We have only 18 insurance companies, out of which 12 operate and sell non-life insurance and MTPL. We have totally 4 subsidiaries, out of which 2 do the MTPL business. Okay, does this work? Yeah. In terms of MTPL, on our market, maybe just I will address a couple of issues. Our penetration in total GDP is 0.53% and density is 62 euro. Maybe frequency of claims is also one interesting data, and hopefully won't change that much. It's 4%. Now we are getting to the part where I wanted to show actually direct influence of the liberalization of the MTPL market, because a share of non-life in total gross written premium decreased after the liberalization from 74% to 68%. And this wasn't a very long period. As you can see, it was 9 years. So we definitely went through changes. Not only that, but if we talk about MTPL, the share of MTPL in total non-life also decreased significantly, and it was from 42 to 31%. So liberalization as such brought definitely changes to our market, and it changed also the whole picture of how our total statistics look like. So prior to entering European Union, and this was the period before 2013, we entered the European Union in 2013, we actually had the same rules for everybody. So more or less we had mandatory unique insurance conditions and premium system. And of course, when entering the European Union, this had to be changed. So every company had to set up their own pricing and their own rules, which also didn't come without challenges for a regulator, because I work in a regulator, as a regulator. So later on, after the liberalization started, as I already mentioned, total gross written premium dropped in MTPL, but not only that, this is maybe more interesting data. We can now see a drop in average premium heading from 200 euro to 126 euro. It's not much of a, it's not very high premium. And now we can still see on the right-hand side, it hasn't actually recovered. So the premium levels remain pretty much quite low. So we definitely can sum this up in 3 points, which is as a fact of liberalization, we have lower premiums, we have had really strong competition, and this was also one additional issue and challenge for a regulator at the time, because this fight tended to get pretty rough. And of course that could lead to, and this has led to, different services and additional covers. And now, how does this go in hand with innovation? So actually you are first to hear, but we will introduce this on our market during the April. We will introduce Innovation Hub, how this is connected to liberalization. I wanted to show these slides just to actually show you the impact of something called liberalization, and this impact will not be the solely impact. The first part of our conference was tackling pretty much innovation issues, and I wanted to say, okay, innovation will also bring changes to our market, and it will continue to do so. It's just a question in which segments and part, and how this will reflect total numbers and figures. So we are starting with the Innovation Hub because we want to support startups, newcomers, as well as current companies who are operating on our market in order to introduce new technologies. And to be able to do so, we want to support them so that we can provide a framework that will work for all parties involved. And now, going to Motor Insurance Directive, a lot has already been said, and a lot will be still said by Mr. Thalmayr, but I'll just go over a couple of main topics. So main objectives from our perspective of the MID is definitely protection of victims, but also ensurement of the free movement of people and vehicles. Of course, in this aspect, one should definitely worry about insolvency of motor insurers, how to harmonize the amounts of cover within the EU. This is not always an easy task, given the fact that there are 28, still 27 to be countries, member countries in the EU with quite a different GDP. And then, of course, checks on uninsured driving, as well as portability of claims history. So, for instance, about claims history and portability, in Croatia, insurance are obliged to produce claims history statements for the period of the last 5 years. However, we don't have additional provisions saying how do they manage those and how do they treat such claims history in terms of tackling the premium. So we have a certain aspect of the regulation, however, it's not fully deepened. So objective would be of MID to facilitate authentication and acceptance of claims history statements in definitely cross-border cases. And of course, we need to ensure effective supervision as of the whole process. So we've heard something about discrimination when calculating NTPL premiums, and we will, I'm sure, hear about it much more. And of course, harmonization of all these statements plus transparency of premiums is also one thing that is quite interesting, because at the end of the day, our consumers should know how premiums are being calculated. And it's great to disclose this up to an extent that is actually understandable for them. Not to go into actuarial details. Yeah. At the end of the day, we should see benefits for consumers in terms of more transparent insurance policies and maybe also more affordable insurance premiums based on their driving history, as we heard so much about. So I'd say that at the end of the day, incentive is to adopt better driving behavior that may lead then to some benefits for the consumers as well. So I won't go into the details of challenges of the MID on the Croatian market, but it's always a question of costs, of course, even though I don't see that there is such a problem. And of course, then bonus-malus scheme, whether it will change and to what extent. Maybe one question that wasn't referred to as yet is also the effect of extending the application of unregistered lighter motor vehicles, as we can now see on the roads more and more lighter vehicles operating around, and probably increase in the cost due to introduction of such control mechanism to meet the obligation to pay compulsory insurance for such motor vehicles. And of course, future challenge is liability of the driver or the software and or hardware, although we have heard about Volvo case. I don't know whether this covers completely this question, but it remains to be seen as yet. So, not to go any further into long details, I'm sure that Mr. Thalmayr will now share with us other topics related to Motor Insurance Directive. So thank you for your attention.